To find out if Tony has been stalking around the Georgetown offices since he's back east in the D.C. area for the Jazz game yesterday as they beat the Washington Wizards 127-116, maybe giving Pat Ewing some recruiting advice or some coaching advice. Maybe worshiping at the altar of Jeff Green at Georgetown's facilities. I don't know. But Tony's back east, so with the Jazz, they'll play Brooklyn tomorrow night. TJ, what's going on?
I'm going to send you a selfie as soon as I'm going to send you a selfie I took as soon as this interview was over.
Campus security, he's back again. We alerted you to the fact that the Jazz were coming to D.C. to play. We put his picture up around campus. Please have this young man removed.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you. As soon as I hang up the phone with you, I'm gonna send it to you.
All right. Am I allowed to share it on social media, or is it only for me?
You're allowed to share it. But I mean, it's funny given this introduction. It's pretty funny.
Fair enough. So, how's the trip?
It's great, man. I'm about to go hang out with my mother. And then when I go to New York on Wednesday, when I go to New York tomorrow, I'm going to cover the game tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to go to the headquarters of the Athletic to have meetings with corporate. And then I'm going to hang out with my grandmother. And then I'm going to go to New Orleans on Thursday and hopefully see Zion Williamson play in the first NBA game.
Did they call you to corporate headquarters, or are you just going by to say hi?
They told the edict is traveling writers should make time to go to corporate and have a meeting with the big bosses.
Well, at least it's not on a Friday, so that works in your favor.
Yes. So I might actually get a shirt and tie for this one.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. The Jazz continue to do what they should do. They hammered Washington yesterday. They'll play I kind of look at, I was looking ahead last night at Brooklyn, and, I kind of said, well, maybe Brooklyn, because they've got a little bit of talent. It's a road trip. It's back east. You've been gone for a few days. Maybe if the streak's going to end, maybe it ends in Brooklyn tomorrow night at the Barclays Center.
I certainly think there's a chance because, Kyrie Irving's going to be playing, and Spencer Dinwiddie's been playing at an all-star level. They have rim protection with Jared Allen. They have a little bit of depth. They have shooting with Joe Harris. It's a better team than 18 and 20. They're 18 and 20 because they haven't had Kyrie for a month and a half. I certainly think that tomorrow the streak has potential to end, especially if the Jazz don't have Donovan Mitchell. I don't know whether they have him one way or the other. And I think Thursday is going to be tough. I think Thursday is going to be difficult. Even if Zion doesn't play, Drew Holiday's probably going to be back. Derek Favors is probably going to be back. I thought this road trip was going to be difficult because all three of the teams that were on this trip are kind of getting healthy just in time to see the Jazz. So, yesterday was difficult for the Jazz with the Washington Wizards. Bradley Beal gave them all kinds of problems. The Jazz were down 15 in the middle of the third quarter, and then Rudy Gobert decided to just take over the game. I think tomorrow night's going to be difficult in Brooklyn. I think that Thursday night's going to be difficult in New Orleans.
If they don't have Donovan, how do you make up for his, for at least right now, the scoring? I'm not sure they have anybody that can make up for what he does on both ends, but from the scoring standpoint, is it a little bit of Clarkson? Is it a little bit of Moutier? Who picks up the load, or how do you fill in fill in for that 25 a game Donovan's giving you?
Yeah, that's the nice thing about this year's Jazz. If Donovan scored 4 points against the Charlotte Hornets, and the Jazz blew them out. Donovan didn't play against the Wizards, obviously, and the Jazz scored 127 points. This team can score. They have a lot of shooting. They have a lot of playmaking to go with that shooting. Joe Ingles had 20 points. He had 8 or 9 assists yesterday. Bojan Bogdanovic was terrific. He had 31. Bojan Bogdanovic has scored at least 30 points 8 times this season.
Yeah.
So there's the good thing with Donovan being out is that the Jazz can score. I think where they miss him is filling in the gaps with the second unit when Bogdanovich isn't on the floor. Obviously scoring 24, almost 25 a night. What he does defensively, what he does playmaking. So obviously they miss him. But it's a team that can survive without Donovan for a couple of games in a pinch because they have other guys that can step up and get buckets.
Any news on Mike Conley and where he is in his progress?
There's nothing official, but what I'm hearing is that they're ramping him up towards a return. He's going through portions of practice. Basically what I'm hearing is he's essentially healthy, but the Jazz are going to be cautious with him because they don't want to relapse, if that makes sense.
Completely, yeah.
So, the hamstring is healed. What I'm hearing, they just want to be sure that when they put him back on the floor, he doesn't have a relapse. So what I'm expecting is whenever he does come back, he's going to be under a pretty significant minutes restriction. I would expect around 15 to 20 initially. And also, they're just kind of ramping him up. So, I foresee him playing one-on-one, 2-on-2s, slowly ramping him up to full court. So it still might be a little bit before he comes back, but from everything I'm hearing, the hamstring is relatively healthy right now.
Our friend Tony Jones from The Athletic, traveling with the Jazz back east, making his way from D.C. to Brooklyn tomorrow, where the Jazz will play the Brooklyn Nets. They've won 8 straight games. He's brought to us by our friends at Budweiser, as always. Bobby Marks wrote this morning up at ESPN.com about the trade deadline, which is approaching, not fast approaching, but it is approaching. And he didn't have much to say about the Jazz. He basically said what to watch for is patience from the Jazz front office after they made the deal for Jordan Clarkson. Now we're a few weeks away still here, Tony, but you wouldn't expect, unless there was something major that happened with the team, that the Jazz would do much, if anything, at the trade deadline, would you?
Well, I think if something materializes where they can put Ed Davis in the trade, I think they would listen to that. I think if there was a good shooting big that became available on the buyout market, I think the Jazz would look at that. I still think the Jazz have to solidify their backup big rotation. Obviously, Dwayne Dedmon's available. I don't think the Jazz are interested in Dedmon because they're not interested in the length of his contract.
And the amount of his contract. Isn't it like 3 years and almost like 12 or 13 a year?
41, something like that. Like it's kind of astronomical relative to the player that he is. Right. Which is a peak Sacramento Kings, right? So, I think there are people that the Jazz like, but they're not sure that they're going to be able to get them. Obviously, the Jazz like Davis Bertans from the Washington Wizards, but so do 29 other teams. And I think the Wizards like him too, so I'm not sure that the Wizards would actually trade him. So it'll be interesting. I do think that Bobby is correct in a large sense where the Jazz will be patient, but I think the Jazz are going to be listening as well. And I think that it's something were to materialize that makes sense for them. I don't think that I don't think that they would not pull the trigger.
Why has Ed Davis not had a bigger impact or not worked as well as they had hoped?
Well, the problem is offensively, he just didn't work with the offense that the Jazz ran. One of the reasons why Tony Bradley's been an upgrade is that he can catch the ball and he can finish and he can set picks and he can roll and actually be a semblance of a roll threat down the lane. And that opens up the rest of their offense. And Ed just didn't do that. Defensively, he was relatively fine. Rebounding the basketball, he was relatively fine, but he just didn't set screens well within the offense. He didn't catch the ball well within the offense. He wasn't a role threat. He didn't finish at the basket. So he was essentially a non-threat, and it just killed the rest of the second unit offense, and it killed Joe Ingles. Like, it just really killed Joe Ingles' game. I think the Jazz saw that, and they made a difficult decision. I mean, it's pretty unique sitting a veteran as respected and who has been around as long as Ed Davis for a 22-year-old guy who's essentially an NBA rookie. I mean, I know that this is his third year with the Jazz, but this is Tony Bradley's first year getting minutes. So, it was a pretty unique decision that the Jazz made to kind of move on from Ed Davis in the rotation.
Talking to Tony Jones here on the Bill Riley Show today on ESPN 700, a little NBA basketball conversation. Any more rumors buzzing around about Kuzma and the Lakers?
Yeah, not that I've heard, but I think the Lakers are happy that Kuz went out and dropped 36 the other night against Oklahoma City, because that can only boost his trade value if they do decide to move on from him. He's obviously Kuz is a better player than Ed Davis, but I mean, it's just kind of the same thing. He's an awkward fit in that roster. He's got to play power forward, but Anthony Davis has thrived at power forward, and the center by committee position is made the Lakers unique. So they're not going to move off the too big alignment, especially because Davis is so good on the perimeter at the 4 spot. So, that automatically, limits what Cal can do. Either when he gets on the floor, he's either got to play the 3, or he's got to play a lot, his minutes have to be limited when he's on the floor with Anthony Davis. So it's just kind of an awkward fit. And the thing about Kyle, he's a rhythm guy. I think that, he plays better with the more touches he gets, he plays better. So it's not a coincidence at all that he scored 36 points against the Oklahoma City Thunder, because LeBron James and Anthony Davis didn't play. He's kind of a rhythm guy. The less touches he gets, the less effective he will be, less efficient he'll be. And it's going to be hard to get touches with LeBron and Anthony Davis on the floor. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Lakers do with him, whether they keep him or whether they move on from him at the deadline.
You're starting a franchise with any quarterback in the NFL today. Who are you starting your franchise with? And I don't think the answer is Dwayne Haskins.
The answer is definitely not Dwayne Haskins. Well, obviously you got to go with Mahomes, right? Like, I love Lamar Jackson, and I would, you saw me on Twitter with Lamar Jackson. But Mahomes is, he's special. He checks every box. He throws with touch and accuracy. He can make all the throws. He's not loose with the football. He's a dual threat when he needs to be. He's a great leader as well. I thought that what we saw yesterday when they got down 24-0, that was leadership from Mahomes, and I think that he proved to be resilient, and I thought that was a great quality as well. I would have to go with Mahomes. I think that the next 10 years, whenever he's behind center, the Chiefs have a chance to win it all.
Well, I hope they continue to have that chance a week from today when we're talking too.
Oh, man, I just validated one of your teams, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, but that's okay. You could. I don't think that there's a definitive right answer, but I would go with Mahomes. I like Lamar.
You set me up.
No, you could have gone with anybody. My order of quarterbacks today, and it might surprise you a little bit. I'd go with Mahomes 1, Russell Wilson 2, because he's 31. And quarterbacks, as we see, can play at a very high level well into their 30s and early 40s. Deshaun Watson 3, and then I'd go Lamar 4. And that's not any knock on him, but I think even yesterday Watson played well. He didn't play well enough to outgun Mahomes yesterday, but I like Deshaun Watson an awful lot too, and I think Lamar is very good, but he's still young, he's still a little inexperienced, and I like those other guys just a little bit more than I like Lamar.
I would switch Lamar and Watson. I mean, I think that I think that Lamar's just so dynamic, and I think the other thing with Lamar, I think that he's a guy. The one thing about Michael Vick is that I think that when he got to his peak, he never got better. He never worked to get better at the other stuff. And I think Lamar is a guy that's going to work to continue to get better. I think that he's going to throw the football all summer. I think that he's going to come back even better in the pocket. I think that he's a guy that's not going to be satisfied. And I think Lamar is absolutely one day going to win a Super Bowl because of this. So, and I think Russell Wilson, he single-handedly almost won that game yesterday. The problem I have with Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, both of those guys, I think both of those guys hold on to the football too long in the pocket, and I think it hurts both of those guys.
Before I let you go, who you got tonight, Clemson or LSU?
I got LSU. I think that this is their season of destiny. I think that they've been the best team in the country all year long. I think Burrow's got I think Burrow's got too many weapons. Those guys, it's just an explosive offense. I've never seen LSU with an offense like they have this season, and I think that this is just. I just think that this is their time. Sometimes it's just your time to go out to go and get a chip, and I think that this is LSU's time, and I don't see anybody stopping them this year.
I want a good game tonight. I don't really care who wins, but
I'm not even sure it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a couple touchdowns.
Really? Clemson has won 29 consecutive games, and they've got an unbelievable defense. You think that LSU's that good?
I think LSU is that good.
Okay.
I think. Sometimes there are just teams that are just special, and you can just see that they're special. And I think that LSU is special. VJ Fajoko's brother is gonna get a championship tonight.
If LSU wins, Braden Fajoko will certainly get that championship, no doubt about it. Hey, go enjoy your mom, and I'll talk to you soon.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate it.